The invite was like a Trojan horse, pretending to be a peace offering. Ethan Harper, the guy who'd built his fortune on my tossed-aside aspirations, was asking me, Sophia Lane, to the 10th anniversary bash of his architecture company. He framed it as burying the hatchet. I saw right through it, a flashy showcase of his fresh start, and one last kick in the teeth for what we had. He figured I'd show up as the timid, shattered girl he dumped. Boy, was he in for a rude awakening, the phoenix rising from the ruins. That invite wasn't just fancy stationery, it was a specter from the past. Heavy ivory paper, the sort that costs an arm and a leg compared to my old grocery bills. Ethan's slick new logo, a bold H twisted like a coiled viper, gleamed in silver up top. Harper Architects warmly welcomes you to a decade of groundbreaking work. I ran my finger over the crisp lines, old wounds stinging like fresh bee stings from our history. 5 years. That's how long it had been since I bailed on our joint life with just a duffel bag and the ringing echo of his goodbye zinger. You were always dragging me down, Sophie. You lack the big picture. He hit the nail on the head, in a way. Back then, my worldview was all about him. My existence was a tidy little setup revolving around his wants, his goals, his timetable. I was the free help, the invisible collaborator, the echo chamber for concepts I often sparked, only to see him claim them as his brainchild. I ditched my scholarship to the School of Visual Arts in New York to prop up his startup, convinced his wins were our wins. It was a starry-eyed, naive fantasy that crashed and burned the day I stumbled on receipts for fancy hotels and bling that weren't mine. His new bride, Brooke, reaped the rewards. She was fresher-faced, a high society type whose dad controlled half the properties Ethan now designed on. It was a deal, not a romance. You're not seriously considering going, are you? Lena's words sliced through my daydream haze. She lounged in the doorway of my workshop, arms folded, a fierce mama bear spark in her gaze. My workshop was my haven, a wild, gorgeous jumble of canvases, the bite of mineral spirits, and the grounded aroma of pottery. Sunbeams poured through the huge loft windows, spotlighting dust particles twirling like mini sprites. This spot, this existence, was the polar opposite of the cold, sparse loft Ethan and I once shared. He mailed it to my exhibit space address. I murmured, tone hushed. He made damn sure I'd see it. He wants to rub in what I missed out on. What you missed out on? Sophie, you dodged a bullet, Lena shot back, striding to the table where I'd been blending a hue of sapphire so intense it could swallow you whole. You ditched a two-timing, mind-game-playing egomaniac who swiped your prime years and prime ideas. You shed endless nights wondering about his whereabouts. You lost that soul-crushing vibe of never measuring up. She snatched the invite, pinching it like it was radioactive. This ain't an invite. It's a subpoena. He wants to flaunt his conquest right in your face. He expects you in some outdated frock, looking beat down. So he and his plastic princess can lord it over you. I scan my workshop. Paintings propped against walls, bursting with the feelings I'd channeled into them. My collection, City Whispers, had flown off the shelves at my debut solo show last year. I wasn't scraping by. I was knocking on the door of real success. I ran my own cozy exhibit space in Midtown, a spot where I boosted up-and-coming creators. I'd constructed a life, one tough, freeing step at a time. Yet that lone sheet of paper packed the punch to drag me back to that shaky young woman who slipped away quietly, too scared to raise a fuss. The uneven playing field had ruled our bond. He was the star, and I was supposed to be a dim satellite. He raked in the dough. He had the network. He gripped the reins. I was merely his spouse, a bit part. He figures I'm still that gal, I muttered, half to Lena. He hasn't a clue who I've turned into. Spot on. Lena's face brightened. So skip it. Don't hand him the win. A fresh notion bubbled up in my brain, a sly, risky tide drawing me along. For 5 years, I'd fled the shadow of Ethan Harper. I'd steered clear of his hangouts, his crowd. I'd pieced together my new reality in the fringes of his, forever dreading a random run-in. Maybe it was high time to quit dodging. Maybe it was time to confront the phantom and show myself it held zero sway. This wasn't his show anymore. It was mine. Nah, I declared, my tone firming up in a way that caught me off guard. I grabbed the invite from Lena's grip. The silver H sparkled under the workshop bulbs. You're off base. I've got a show. Lena gawked at me, jaw-dropping. Sophie, what the heck? It's a setup. I get that, I replied, a sly grin creeping on. He's banking on a specter. He craves the casualty he crafted, but that lady's long gone. He buried her, and he doesn't know who he's just welcomed to his shindig. The mental tug-of-war wasn't solely with Ethan. It was with the fresher, frielier me he'd etched into my core. Attending that bash wasn't for payback. It was a purge. I had to stride into the core of my history, into his polished realm of clout and glamour, and hold it together. I needed to eyeball him and his upgraded existence and sense zilch but the soft buzz of my own earned calm. I'm not gonna be his punchline, Lena, I stated, placing the invite beside my tray of vivid, bold pigments. I'm gonna be his wake-up call. The days before the bash were a crash course in mind games, all fought inside my head. Each dawn, I'd rise with a pit of anxiety in my gut, the echo of old Sophie murmuring insecurities. What are you out to prove? You don't fit in his scene anymore. They'll mock you. But then I'd enter my workshop. The whiff of acrylics like a slap in the face, and the revamped Sophia would seize control. She was a fighter, and she required gear. My makeover wasn't to wow Ethan. It was to personify the woman I'd evolved into. It was a tangible sign of an inner uprising. My initial pit stop wasn't a high-end shop, but a spot I hadn't hit in ages. The storage locker holding the remnants of my prior life. Buried deep past musty couches and crates of overlooked gadgets was a folder case. Inside sat my ancient drafts from the art school, blueprints for flowing, dreamlike robes that were more art pieces than outfits. I'd aspired to be a fabric creator once, before Ethan had nudged me toward the sensible route of backing his dreams. I dug out the draft I sought, a gown meant to flow like molten starlight, with a rigid, almost blueprint-like top melting into a waterfall of satin. It stemmed from a younger, brighter mindset, but now I spotted the resilience in its contours. Draft in tow, I visited Madame Leclerc, a half-retired dressmaker whose talent was legendary in New York. She operated from a dusty, sun-kissed studio in a vintage townhouse, and she picked clients who sparked her interest. She eyed my draft through her chunky retro specs, her look poker-faced. This is bold, miss. It calls for a material that's not out there yet and a lady unafraid to turn heads. I can handle the spotlight, I assured her, tone solid, and the material, I've got a brainstorm. Over the next 3 days, we teamed up. I demoed a method I'd honed in my craft, blending raw satin with ultrafine metallic dust, then overlaying it with voile. The outcome was a cloth that glowed from within, morphing from a rich navy to a dazzling platinum based on the light angle. It evoked a dusk horizon. Madame Leclerc was hooked, her classic skills fired up by my contemporary flair. She dubbed it Etoile silk, comet fabric. While she and her crew wove their spell, I tackled the other defenses. I got my hair, kept long and plain for years, trimmed and waved to shoulder length, framing my features. The drab chestnut was history, swapped for a deeper, warmer tone that made my hazel eyes shine. I spent a session with a cosmetics pro who schooled me not on masking my traits, but amplifying them. The firm curve of my chin, the sweep of my brows. Each move was a takeover. The gal in the mirror wasn't a faint copy of another's ideals. She was unfamiliar, and I dug her. She seemed unstoppable. Bash night, Lena swung by my pad with bubbly in hand. She caught me in front of the tall mirror, gazing at my image. The gown exceeded my wildest dreams. It hugged my form in a classy, commanding way. The comet fabric twinkled with every twitch. The collar was a crisp, angular slice that spotlighted my shoulders. A sharp foil to the gentle swirling hem pooling at my toes. It was a masterpiece. My masterpiece. Sophie, Lena gasped, eyes bulging. Holy cow. You're not just hitting a party. You're dropping a bombshell. That's the plan, I affirmed, tone even despite the wild butterflies in my belly. He's gonna keel over, she quipped, filling 2 flutes. Brooke's gonna blow a fuse. We toasted. To fresh starts, Lena cheered. To slamming shut old chapters, I countered, sipping lightly. The last defense was a pendant I'd crafted solo. In the bleakest post-split days, I joined a metalworking course. I discovered odd solace in fusing and reforming steel, forging grace from tough, stubborn stuff. I'd hammered a plain, sleek gold collar, buffed to a glassy sheen. It was chill and sturdy on my neck, a concrete nod to the blaze I'd endured to remake myself. As I slid into the hired ride, old Sophie made a final push. The dread was an icy lump in my stomach. They'll peg you for what you are, the dumped spouse, the flop creator. I shut my lids and inhaled deep, envisioning my workshop, my creations, my exhibit space. I pictured Madame Leclerc's sly grin and Lena's rock-solid backing. I'd erected a whole universe for myself, one unrelated to Ethan Harper. He was a section, not the full tale. Tonight I was merely flipping the leaf. Ready, Mississippi Lane? The chauffeur queried, eyeing me in the mirror. I locked eyes with my reflection. The woman staring back was serene, her gaze sharp. She was primed. Yep, I replied. Let's roll. The bash was at the Hayden Planetarium, a venue Ethan picked for its drama. Its arched roof and expansive views of the New York skyline were ideal for a dude who viewed himself as the universe's hub. Right from stepping out of the car, I sensed the vibe of the affair, a subtle buzz of ego trips broken by glass clinks and fake chuckles. I lingered at the doorway, steadying myself. The crisp evening breeze soothed my skin. I heard the soft slap of the Hudson River on the banks, a steady, soothing beat. Then I entered. The impact was immediate. It was as if a quiet ripple spread from the entrance. Chats stumbled, necks craned. A sea of eyes from the city's big shots, all pinned on me. They recognized me. I was Sophia Harper, the original wife, the outdated model tossed aside. But the lady before them didn't match their recollections. I witnessed the bewilderment, the jolt, the rethink unfolding live. My gown, my comet silk, soaked up the room's glow and bounced it back, crafting a faint halo that demanded notice. I held my head high, posture straight, and stepped into the fray, not as bait, but as a match. And then I spotted him. Ethan was ruling the roost in the room's heart, bubbly in one paw, the other claiming Brooke's waist. He appeared unchanged, sharp suit, a grin full of shark teeth, an air of top-dog swagger. He was mid-sentence when the quiet hit. He tracked his crowd's stares, his smirk slipping as his peepers hit me. For a solid 5 beats, he just gaped. The rehearsed charisma evaporated, swapped for pure, raw stun. His lips parted like to speak, but zilch emerged. It was like eyeing a phantom, but one more lively and vital than the rest of the bunch. Next to him, Brooke's polished nails dug into his sleeve. Her grin turned stiff, iced over. She was pretty in a glossy, cookie-cutter style, a typical blonde in a snug scarlet number that begged for eyes. But as she scanned me, a spark of raw, pure doubt flashed across her mug. In that instant, she wasn't the champ. She was just a gal spotting a rival she never saw coming. The trance snapped. The hum of talk resumed, but altered. It was muffled, pressing. Is that Sophia? She's unrecognizable. What's her deal here? I tuned them out. My sights were on Ethan. I flashed him a tiny, mysterious smirk, a slight nod, then purposefully pivoted, aiming for the bar like his being meant squat to me. It was a strategic play, a grab back of control. I wasn't there to tangle with him. I was on my turf. Your driest bubbly, please, I requested from the barkeep. As I hung tight, I felt a vibe nearby. Only to peek, I knew. His pricey, pushy aftershave was a stubborn memory. Sophia, Ethan growled low and tense. What in tarnation are you doing here? I swiveled slow. Close up, I noted the faint worry creases around his eyes that his fancy upkeep couldn't mask. He seemed aged. Brooke's lids narrowed. This wasn't her playbook. Ethan, who'd been mute and stewing, piped up. Victor, gotta borrow you quick. Let's hash the Dawson pitch. It was a ham-fisted bid to strand me, yank my strong backup. Sure thing, Ethan, Victor agreed, but spun to me. Stay put, Sophie. I want to hear about your next showcase. He patted my arm reassuringly before splitting, a wordless vow to return. Solo with Ethan and Brooke, the vibe chilled. The fake nice melted. I don't get what you're after here, Ethan hissed low and bitter. But this act is lame. You swan in with some wild ensemble, faking your hot stuff. And what am I, Ethan? I queried, tone whisper low. I didn't amp it. No need. The docile little spouse you could shape and ditch. The gal whose brainwaves you could lift and brand yours. You're on point. I'm not her. Count your blessings. Brooke gasped, a stagey huff. How dare you? Ethan erected this company from scratch. Did he? I shifted from her faked outrage to Ethan's fury. Every kingdom needs a base, Brooke. Grill him sometime on what, or who, his rested on. I didn't hang for a comeback. I flashed them a last brush-off grin and sauntered off, pace measured, no rush. I could taste their dazed hush trailing me. I'd sown a doubt seed, a fissure in their flawless front. The evening's flow reversed. I'd braced for a barrage of sympathy and snubs. Instead, I'd stirred the pot, and from Ethan's look, he was getting he had no escape hatch. The night's remainder blurred surreal. I floated amid the throng, swapping chit-chat, taking kudos with poise I didn't know I had. I felt like a star in her breakout role, and the part was me. With every chat, each stunned and wowed face, the role rang truer. I wasn't faking. I was just existing. Ethan and Brooke kept space, but their aura loomed like a thunderhead. They orbited, muttering, their solid team cracking. Brooke seemed more rattled, her flawless grin now a taut, worried slash. Ethan was knocking back drinks harder, moves jerkier, pushier. He was the boss in his fortress, eyeing a surf spark a revolt. My yak with Victor had raced through the space like gossip on steroids. I wasn't just Ethan's sad ex. I was Sophia Lane, boss of the Lane Gallery, a climbing force in New York's art world. Folks hunted me down, not for nosy thrills, but real curiosity. A big-name critic, whose words could launch or tank careers, introduced herself and said she'd been itching to hit my spot for ages. She vowed to attend my next debut. This was the arena Ethan had barred me from, one he'd claimed I couldn't hack. And here I was, killing it, smack in his victory lap. The twist was so rich I could savor it. The official segment kicked off. Ethan hit the stage for his talk. He posed at the mic, spotlighted, the image of triumph. He yapped about foresight, grit, chasing perfection. He thanked patrons, crew, then his bride. And lastly, he boomed, voice echoing. I gotta thank my stunning wife, Brooke. She's my anchor, my muse. Her rock-solid faith in me is the fuel in my tank. The group clapped politely. I lingered near the rear, flute still gripped, watching him. He was acting too. But his gig was empty. He recited from a self-penned script ages ago, a yarn of the bootstrap hero. It was bogus. As he droned, my thoughts rewound to the early grind, our cramped, flat piles of delivery boxes, 'cause cooking was off the table. Me hunkered over his plans till the wee hours, doodling tweaks in the edges, aiding him revamp dud ideas, brainstorming firm names. I recalled the eve he'd nearly thrown in the towel, crushed after bombing a key offer. I was the one who perched with him, coached him, and roughed out the initial spark for his breakout gig, the Riverside Overhaul. A notion I'd ignited, a view I'd helped mold. He'd grabbed that doodle, polished it, and sold it as his lone-stroke genius. That job skyrocketed him. He never credited my input. Not to me, not a soul. Back then, I convinced myself it was no biggie. His rise was ours. Now, planted in his self-monument, a frosty, solid rage hardened in my chest. It wasn't merely heartbreak. It was robbery. He'd nicked my spark, my brain goods, and raised his realm on it. When the spiel wrapped and claps died, he waded through, soaking congrats. His eyes snagged mine across the joint. Challenge in them, a cocky, winning gleam. He thought he'd nailed it, that his loud love shout for Brooke had boxed me in. Wrongo. He neared, strut cocky. Brooke was MIA. Some spectacle, he sneered, dripping disdain. Hope you dug the bash, Sophia. Call it a send-off. A peek at the life you blew. I locked his stare, face blank. The life I blew? Nah, Ethan. This is a peek at the life I co-built. One you hogged the glory for. His grin poofed. I got no clue what you're on about. Don't you? I inched closer, voice dropping for his ears only. The Riverside gig. Ring any bells? Late shifts, stale Joe, a frantic hubby and a wife with a pad. You recall that night, right? You said I had a gift for the grand view. Color fled his cheeks. For the first eve, real panic in his peepers. He'd shoved that recall so deep, sold himself the fib so hard, he never dreamed I'd dredge it. You're nuts, he stuttered, swagger cracking. You were backup, that's it. I was your teammate, I fixed, voice glacial, a quiet one. And you edited me out. You stood up there preaching vision. But we both know whose vision kickstarted Harper Architects. I didn't holler or weep. The calm, ironclad fact packed more wallop than drama. I just swung a wrecking ball at his self-core. He wasn't the lone genius. He was a phony. And now I knew, and he knew I knew. Savor your bash, Ethan, I said, spinning from his gobsmacked, gray mug. You deserve it. I strode off, no backward glance. The head game was done. It wasn't about reeling him back or settling scores. It was about snatching my past, my facts. And in his eyes, I'd glimpsed my goal, the total shredding of his con. The room's mood had flipped. The air hung heavy with unsaid strain. My low-key clash with Ethan hadn't slipped by. Though no eavesdroppers caught our words, seeing their host, blanched and rattled post-chat with his ex, fired up the rumor mill. I craved fresh air. I headed to the outer deck, a broad marble balcony with killer 360 views of the city glow dancing on the Hudson's inky waves. The brisk wind cleared my noggin. I rested on the rail, eyes shut brief, letting far-off urban hums soothe me. I'd nailed my mission. I'd stared down my beast and emerged unscorched. The night's tale was just wrap-up. Heck of a vista, ain't it? Victor Hale's tone was a soft nudge. He joined me, 2 new bubblies in grip. He passed one over. It's my fave about this burg, I said. Always seems ripe with potential. Kinda like you this eve, he noted, eyes kind. I spotted you jawing with Ethan. Hope he wasn't a pest. Just hashing old times, I replied, words picked careful. Victor sipped, eyeing me over his rim. You know, I always had a soft spot for you, Sophie. You packed heat, a quick wit. I often figured you were squandered as the trophy wife. His nod was salve on a scar. I thought that was my gig. Gigs are traps if we let 'em, he wisecracked. Looks like you busted out with flair. The buzz ain't Harper Architects' decade mark. It's Sophia Lane. We stood in easy quiet a spell, eyeing the city pulse. It was a calm oasis amid the feelings fray I'd just waited. But the skirmish wasn't fully wrapped. The deck doors whooshed sharp, and Brooke emerged. She'd ditched Ethan for a lone op. Her scarlet frock clashed under the gentle moon. She clicked over aggressively in heels. There you are, she snapped, voice strained with fake cheer. She blanked Victor. Hope to chat, gal to gal. I stood tall, inner sirens blaring. This wouldn't be chummy. Brooke, I coolly noted. I get this must sting for you, she launched, oozing superiority. Eyeing all this, Ethan's so content. Must be a sore nudge of your flop. Her ploy cast me as the green, sour X, a tail she could steer. I'm not hurting, Brooke, I said even. Her eyes blazed. My no-victim stance bugged her. Oh, come off it. Drop the facade. Showing up dolled like that, stirring drama. It's sad. Face it, you bombed. I scored. He picked me. He didn't pick you, Brooke, I murmured soft but sharp. He picked your pop's cash. It was a transaction. And you picked a guy who'd slapped together a fancy pad on shaky ground. So yeah, you're a match made in heaven. A choked noise slipped her. She scanned wild, hunting ammo. Her gaze hit a full red wine glass left on a side table. In a sloppy, mean lunge, she fumbled toward me, splashing the crimson down my gown's front. Oh gosh, she wailed, her fake horror award-worthy. I'm such a klutz. A dark blot spread over the twinkling comet silk. It was straight sabotage, a frantic bid to wreck my cool, my craft, my spotlight. Old Sophie would have folded, sobbed, and bolted in shame. But old Sophie was history. I eyed the blot, then Brooke's smug, mock-shocked face, and grinned. No sweat, Brooke, I rang out clear in the deck's sudden hush. Victor gawked at her, mug pure revulsion. Mishaps occur. Then I pulled a curveball she never saw. I grabbed my golden bubbly flute. Steady-handed, I tipped it, dumping the fizzy stuff straight on the wine mark. A dash of bubbly or soda's prime for red wine spots. I schooled her like a kid. Lifts it clean, see? The bubbly bubbled, thinning the red to faint rosy wash. The mark lingered, but dulled eased. My move was so off the wall, so cool-headed, it nuked her strike. I'd flipped her aggression into a household hack lesson. She gaped, mute, lips flapping fish-like. She'd aimed to brand me, trash me, and I just tidied it. Now, pardon me, I said, passing my drained glass to a stunned but awed Victor. Time to bounce. Early start, are to birth, you know. I shot Brooke a final sorry glance. He's yours, I whispered. I'm crafting my own gems now. I pivoted and glided through the doors, leaving her planted on the deck, soaked in her flop's rebound. I'd outplayed the queen, not by trashing the board, but by acing the game. My exit was low-key and purposeful as my entry. No need for fireworks. The thrill was in the fine print, in the wine mark on my gown that resembled a soft wash more than disgrace. In Brooke's deck hush and Ethan's chalky mug watching me doorward from afar, Victor walked me out. As we crossed the grand space, the chatter trail blazed. I knew the scoop. They'd clocked the deck drama. Brooke's cheap shot had boomeranged, bearing her doubts for all. My steady comebacks sealed the night's yarn. I wasn't the fall guy. I was the boss. That was the slickest power flex I've witnessed, Victor said as we awaited the valet. Wasn't power, I claimed, though not fully. Just saving my gown. It's unique. He chuckled. So are you, Sophia. So are you. He slipped me his card. My wife wasn't blowing smoke. She's big on your talent scout. She chairs the Modern Arts Trust Board. They're hunting a fresh ally to spot and fund newbies. Gig packs a fat budget. Eyed the card, then his face. This beat casual. It was a gateway to sway and chances I'd only fantasized. They ought to chat you up, Sophia, he added. Your gallery's what New York's art needs. Raw, gutsy, no holds barred. Ring me Monday. We'll line up lunch with the crew. The valet rolled up my ride. I faced Victor, real thanks flooding me. This single night, this scary, freeing night, had rerouted my path. I'd entered chasing closure. I exited with a launch. Thanks, Victor, I said, voice thick. For it all. You earned every bit, he grinned warm. As I drove off, I peeked back at the planetarium. It resembled a shrine to a lost idol. I pondered Ethan and Brooke inside, stuck with their wrecked fest. Their life space, on his ego and her dad's bucks, was wobbly by design. I just bared the splits. The following day's world. Monday, I dialed Victor. Board lunch was Wednesday. Tuesday, I prepped a pitch highlighting my artists, sketching my plan for a borough-wide guide program, my fire and pro vibe shining. The bash tale, meantime, snowballed in New York's posh loops. The yarn twisted and swelled per retell, but basics stuck. Ethan Harper's ex arrived goddess-like. His new wife shamed herself public, and Sophia Lane was a powerhouse. The blowback for Ethan hit fast and fierce. His biz thrived on rep and polish. Murmurs of his wobbles, Brooke's tacky antics, nibbled his profits. But the killer punch came unexpected. Victor Hale, grossed by Ethan and Brooke's shtick, had quiet words with key design players. He didn't spill much. Just sowed doubt. Shame on Ethan, he might have said over club sips. Such skill, but he forgot his idea roots. The Riverside tale, my tale, circled coded, plausibly deniable. It was hearsay, trade chatter, but eating away. Wary clients backed off. The Dawson pitch, his Victor distraction, went on ice. Ethan's realm, on pilfered base, started crumbling. He'd wielded clout to shame me, but misfired. He missed that real clout ain't cash or rank. It's honor. It's claiming your yarn. And his was fake. I'd spent 5 years erecting a life. He'd spent 10 crafting a label. When pushed, my life proved rock solid, his label a card tower in gusts. A month post-bash, I was in my workshop, tweaking a fresh canvas. It differed from prior stuff, bolder, more freeform, packed with hue and glow. It felt upbeat. The Modern Arts Trust tie was locked. My gallery grew. My days spun forward dizzy fast. For once, I didn't fear tomorrow. I buzzed for it. My phone buzzed jarred me. Unknown digits. Almost swiped no, but gut said yes. Hey, Sophie. The voice was weak, rough. All bold bluster stripped. It was Ethan. Gotta meet, he said flat. Not smart, Ethan. Please, he pleaded. The words so odd from him, it hushed me. Just once. To chat. My HQ. Against smarts, I nodded. Maybe nosiness, or craving a hard stop to our dragged saga. His HQ, once his empire's shiny hub, felt off. Still plush, but dust filmed the desk, mail piled unread. The joint's vibe was stuck, licked. He looked wrecked. Shed pounds. His ritzy suit sagged, eye bag screamed no sleep. Brooke had split the prior week, her dad yanking all stakes from Harper Architects. As final jab, the deal was axed. Thanks for showing, he said, waving to a seat I skipped. I stayed upright, silent no to settling in his turf. What do you want, Ethan? He paced jittery. I need why. Why wreck me? You crashed my bash to torch me. I finally eyed him true, and saw no beast, but a tiny cracked dude. The hold he'd lorded so long was smoke, a mask hiding deep doubts. Off base, I said, no rage left. Nothing to rage over. Didn't come to wreck. Came to rescue me. Came to show myself you got zero hold. The rest, this mess, I waved at the fading office. Your calls, your fibs. He halted pacing, scanned my face for old Sophie's spark, the comforter post hurt. Gone. The riverside, he breathed words misty. I was sunk. Facing flop. That doodle, genius. Told myself it was for us, success would square it. No us, Ethan, I soft corrected. Not for ages. You rode my hush to fame. Thought it'd hold eternal. He slumped in his seat, face in palms. No tears. Just deflated air whooshing out. What now? He quizzed the void. Not my query. The cry of a guy who'd lost his plot. He'd played genius builder so long, he blanked sans costume and set. My comeback wasn't his downfall. It was my revival. Seeing him bare, of clout, glam, bride, I felt zip. No win, no sorry, not love's echo, just deep, final free. He was nobody. Our yarn done. That's your puzzle, I said gentle but steel. Bye, Ethan. I turned, exited his office, his building, into bright New York sun. No look back. Ghosts gone. Past echoes hushed, swapped by my life's lush, lively hum awaiting. 6 months on, the Lane Gallery hummed lively. The Modern Arts Trust link let me add 3 fresh talents, and our debut joint show's opening rocked. The space jammed with reviewers, buyers, fans, air electric with buzz. I hung back, eyeing the unfold. My new canvas, the upbeat freeform from Ethan's call day, pride placed. I named it Blank Slate. Victor spotted me, beaming paternal. You nailed it, Sophia, he warm said. Shifted the city's chat. We nailed it, I fixed, grinning back. Our link bloomed to solid friendship and biz powerhouse. He mentored, championed. His faith sparked key. But deep, I knew I'd done the grind. Found my guts. Across, the critic from the bash. Her right up raved, praising my scout for raw heart truth. Truth. That's the core. Living mind bold. Later, crowds thinned, Lena and I shut down. Ever hear of him? She quiet asked, buffing a goblet. I knew who. Whispers came. Ethan sold his outfit cheap, bolted. Some said LA reboot. Others, folks crash. Didn't know, didn't care. His yarn untied from mine. Footnote in a ditched read. Nope, I true said. She eyed me probing. Happy, Sophie? I scanned my crafted space, wall art, my strong, sure self in the window. My life no fairy tale. Real my blank canvas, daily brush grab to craft what gem. Yeah, I said, word rock firm as earth underfoot. For real. Sophia's path wasn't payback. It was takeover. She re-entered history, not to raise, but reclaim lost bits. She shows real clout ain't projected life, but inner build, honest block by block. Her yarn testifies sometimes finest art is life from old self's ruins. It shows one tale's close can spark another's grand blank start. If the shift and strength yarn hit home, smack like, share with needy ears, sub for more redemption and grit tales.